Right. Now, there are 10 sugar factories in Kenya. Now, 9 of which are private, and the first sugar miller was Miwani Sugar Factory, which started in the year 1922. We had also Ramisi, which was closed in the 80s. It came 5 years later. But now, in 1980, a year when Kenya became sugar self-sufficient, 5 other public millers had been established. These were Muhoroni in 1966, we had Chemelil in 1968, Mumias in 1973, you had Nzoia in 1978, and South Nyanza, which is 1979. But throughout the years, our production of sugar at some point dwindled, and it became lower than our consumption. Now, but the question is, why is our local industry unable to satisfy the domestic market? There is a bug eating the sugar industry. What is the solution? Well, a task force was given out, formed by President Uhuru Kenyatta to give us the way forward. This is the viewpoint. We will be focusing on this. And to help us understand more about this, I'm joined by Honorable Joash Mang'oli. He is a former member of parliament from Webuye, and now the chairman of the Nzoia Sugar Company. Karibu sana. Thank you very much for finding time to join us to give us your viewpoint. And he was representing the Sugar Millers Association as the chairman. The viewpoint starts now. Give us your take as you give us your feedback. Remember to use the hashtag Good Morning Kenya on Twitter. At KBC Channel 1 at Ram Aguko is my handle. The SMS line is 20154. Start with the word Channel 1. Now, Mheshimiwa, we're looking at what is ailing us. Yes. What do you think is the source of our problem? Why is the sugar industry going down?
I could point out right from the start. I'll tell you where, because behind there, the last 2-3 years there, we have data which can convince you that we had gone to the level you are saying that the Kenya, after establishing these factories, the Kenya got certified themselves with sugar. But thereafter, what happened? One is the most recent, maybe 2 years or 3 years ago. That's where the rain started beating the industry. The government, on their own emotions, removed the Sugar Development Fund. The Sugar Development Fund is a fund which helps the industry, especially the millers and the farmers, to be given some cushions, given advances, given fertilizer, given things that can help them. When they removed the Sugar Development Fund, without the inputs of millers and farmers, it disables the entire industry. 2, this is the only industry, the sugar sector has operated without rules and regulation for almost 20 years now. We have attempted, we have gone through public participation to get rules and regulation cassetted. It has been difficult. That is where the problem also lies. So the rain started beating us when they removed the Sugar Development Fund, exposed the public funds, public millers to not to maintain their factories.
But we still had no policies that would have guided us towards the right direction.
Yes.
Wouldn't that also have been a problem, a reason why?
Yeah, that is the reason. Because how do you then know what you have or what you can do without rules and regulations? 2, we had zones. And all over the world, any miller who wants to have sugar cane as a miller must have his own command areas, what they call zones. When they removed the Sugar Development Fund, then they removed also the zones. So it exposed the entire sector into confusions, where the poaching of cane from others who have invested in the canes were done. Some even lost lives of people because you had to protect your cane by having your coons to hold on so that it cannot go, especially in Nzoia. So it is critical that the task force you have talked about is the answer.
When you were still in parliament,
yes,
as the member of parliament for Webuye, did you notice this kind of a gap?
Well, at that time, as you said earlier, there were already, we were addressing this shortage. The shortage of cane sugar was not as rampant as now, because I think the imported sugar, which is another key area, was not rampant. People didn't think that importing sugar in this country would be a thing that they can benefit. But then it was used here especially in election, they would import a lot of sugar to the market, and hence punish the local millers to produce sugar which they could not sell.
So but we import because we have low production. And the consumption is quite much. I'll be giving us the numbers as we continue with this conversation. So in your view, in your viewpoint,
yes,
do you think this task force will revitalize sugar farming and the sugar industry in Kenya?
Let me tell you here and now, this is the only hope. After this, there will be no hope at all. And this is like no.
You won't fail?
No, because it is properly surged task force research with expert inputs. They have put everything in that locks those shortcomings, like the imported sugar, like assisting the farmers, like assisting the millers. It is already embodied in this task force. And it has put in rules and regulations. And now we have the second phase, which is the Sugar Act, which was repealed, and we have been operating without any legal document. So now there is the Sugar Act, which is in the process. We are meeting in Kisumu on Tuesday to fast track it, which is already in Parliament, third reading.
Third reading.
Once that is there, then it means the sector will have rules and regulations. Without rules, even when you play in football, it is man for himself.
If you look at some of these towns where we had a lot of, a beehive of activity, go to, for example, Chemali. Yes. We have, it's turning into a ghost town. Yes. People are not there because of lack of it. In your view, you feel like people who are on the ground, they should count on the task force to bring life back in the sugar industry?
Let me re-emphasize that this is the only way out.
Only way out.
And you will see the chemicals around those shops will be revitalized as soon as we implement to the letter. Because we have, today we have the best of the best ministers in the Ministry of Agriculture who has to make a decision spontaneously. And that is going to help. Because once you operationalize what is in this content, in this task force, then you have caught the answer. Many of the answers are there.
I'm looking at 2018. We had local sugar mills producing over 491,000 tons. Actually, specifically, 491,097 tons. We had this is 57% of the domestic consumption. That currently stands at 850,000 tons. So these are from what is being produced, because I'm looking at in 2016 we had 638,000 tons.
Yes.
It went down.
Yes.
From 2016 at 600,000 to 2018, within 2 years to 400, meaning we lost over 200,000 tons. Now two
things happened. One, all those years, all public millers have never had maintenance. And it's a rule of the thumb. In the sugar industry, you must do service of your factory every year, annually. All the public millers, particularly in soya, it has not been maintained for the last 4+ years. So that affects the efficiencies. The other one is a drought of we had span of drought after that. So that also affected the raw material. So you will see that it has gone down, those stabilizations goes down because the raw material was not available, but also the contribution is that you can see on the public, millers are more than private. So when it goes down, like when millers goes down, almost you are putting down almost a third or 2/3 to go out. So there will be that problem. And you will see that the problem you are pinpointing, that year, it is when Mia started this problem which we have. And it's a major player.
How is Zoya Sugar Company doing so far?
We started crushing last week, and we're doing very well with the grace of God, because we did some maintenance, not maintenance I may call it, but we did some 20% maintenance. We did the tubing of the boilers, and that has put in the steam so that it is easier to now burn our sugar and become productive. We are producing 3,000 tons every day, and it is doing wonderfully well. The recovery is extremely good, and I'm sure because of the reality from the farmers. Farmers in Zoya own the factory and call it Sichu Masiefwe, their own mill, and that's where the goodwill is, and we must embrace that goodwill because it is within those goodwill that we are operating today. Because our nuclear has been run down, and we have put a Marshall Plan to revive it, and I'm sure that's one of the things which is going forward. We are going to do many things to correct, but now we are running. So you're producing sugar.
You're saying you're producing 3,000 tons per day? Per day.
Yes.
If going based on my calculation,
yes.
Mheshimiwa, yes. If we are to produce 3,000 tons per day, in a year we'll have over 1 million tons.
3,000 or 300 bags, not tons, I think. 300 bags per day.
Or you produce 300 bags
per day.
Not 3,000 tons.
No, no.
All right. Looking at the crushing capacity, yes. How is it?
The crushing capacity is ongoing, but I have told you we have done only maintenance of 20%. So we are living on the grace of God, so that certain things should be, other things being equal, then we are operating well. But we are saying we are going to do maintenance ongoing to correct areas as we are going, because without the factory going crashing, there will be no income, and therefore we cannot pay staff, we can't pay even farmers. And we are putting a very ambitious programs for the farmer, so that we target the farmer as it is perceived in the task force. That everything you do, it must answer the goodwill of the farmer.
Of the farmer.
Yes.
I would like us to look at one terminology, current ratio. All right. So just for the benefit of the viewer, current ratio is a measure of a company's ability to pay its obligations. That is a ratio of a company's assets against its liabilities.
Yes.
All right. So the value should be above 1.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
But I'm looking at the current ratio for 6 companies. They are far below that threshold. Sony is at 0.3. Chemelil at 0.1. Zoya, what you've just mentioned, is at 0.02. Miwani is at 0.01. Muhoroni is at 0.04. Mumias is at 0.03. So, okay, what is the future of these sugar factories?
If you look at those terminology, it will hinder you to try and help this sector to move. Because they accumulated debts as a result of imported sugar. They were not selling. They should sell the sugar at a loss, and the market is, polluted with imported cheap sugar. So by the time they produce, they can't sell. Since they hold the sugar for too long, they intend to have cash, and when you want to have cash, you sell it at a price you can get that quickly, which may be the one they are selling. But so if they have this cap of stopping the imported sugar, you sell the sugar at the price projected, these things can be revived within the next very short time. 2, in all those public companies, there are historical debts, which, if removed, the figures you are giving will not be there.
If you look at this ratio,
yes.
You believe that if you remove or restrict,
yes.
I don't know which one you go for, removal or restriction of importation of sugar.
Yes.
Do they continue their production? Should we remove importation or regulate it?
One, we want to regulate the importation, because you see, we are serving the consumer. We must regulate the importation, because if all those 14 or 16 millers were crashing to their capacity, this country, according to the statistics we have, we are supposed to export 200,000 tons. The reason is that basically we can. How do we do it? Is that we must be able to develop cane. Like it is, Mumias can't move because they failed, as they were ailing, they failed to address the issue of sugar cane, which is the raw material. Once that is fixed, and in that task force, they have said the government will put in fast track it by giving 10 billion for cane development, because that is the center of problems. Once they removed the Sugar Development Fund, there were no development, because the Sugar Development Fund was meant to develop cane, to do maintenance, and now with the goodwill that has come in with the task force, we are able to project a better future.
You bring back the Sugar Development Fund?
It has been already, the president has accepted the task force. Yeah.
But the report is...
The report is to revive. And we are saying the Sugar Act, it is coming, it's in third reading. One of the principles that are bringing out in that Sugar Act is to revive, to return back the Sugar Development Fund, and in fact bring back the Sugar Board. Because we cannot go to operate under Mofa's company, Alpha, and yet we are a different entity.
Now, Mheshimiwa, when you look at the root cause
Yes.
of this problem,
Yes.
I don't think it could be narrowed down to importation, because importation was brought in because of lack of proper production.
Yes.
Then amount produced was less than the amount of consumption that was there in the country, thereby making the country go towards the direction of importation. Is that interpretation correct?
No, it's not correct, because you see the importation is meant to cushion the short term.
Yeah.
But when you look at the cassettement of importation sugar, if you read it well from the Minister of Finance, he gave it an open-ended. They brought in a sugar which we don't know whether it is 2 million tons or 1.3 tons. When I was in the national conference here in coffee and in sugar at the Ground Plaza Hotel, somebody from Mauritius, the managing director, said the imported sugar here was 1.4 million. Why do you import 1.4 million, and yet the difference may be, as you are saying, 200, or then add the washes to 400? Why? So that has affected the production of sugar and how to move and sell it. And you have now exported employment. And two, let us be honest, the imported sugar, which was meant to come from commercial countries, is no longer coming from commercial countries. It's coming from Brazil. And Brazil sugar is a byproduct.
So it's not coming from the commercial countries?
No, in most cases they are not. We are too many, and you know that's why there is an operating word called sugar parrots.
Do you know, these things, they were taxed at 100% import duty?
Yeah.
But still not coming from
commercial? You know, strictly speaking, we are supposed to import any shortfall from commercial countries. But there's no commercial countries today, Rome, which has sugar to bring here, because they don't have enough to feed their own countries. I'll use Egypt as one of them. Egypt consumption is 1.2 million tons, and yet their production is only 800 to 400. So where do they get sugar to sell to Kenya?
So lack of funding is what killed the sugar industry?
Lack of funding. Immediately removed the Sugar Development Fund, then they exposed the industry into a serious cash flow problem, and therefore we have these impending issues of not paying the farmers on time, not paying workers. This was the issue. Because if the factory is not serviced for the last 4 years, you accumulated time, when the time down, accumulated. I have calculated in Zoya alone, we have lost in terms of production, when the factory was never crashing, to the tune of 3 billion, which should have been produced in terms of money. So you can see that the idle time and the town time with the factories which have not been maintained has consumed the expected sugar to the tune of 4 billion.
Looking at the cost of production, Mheshimiwa,
yes.
How is your viewpoint with regards to that? Do we need to look into it? As you answer that question, I'm going to give us references to other countries.
Yes.
We have the cost of production of a ton of sugar in Kenya.
Yes.
The stakeholders report, it showed that it is $800.
Yes.
Meaning in Kenyan shillings, we have 80,000 Kenyan shillings.
Yes.
This is different, looking at the cost of production in many other countries in the region. Look at Madagascar. It is $543. We're talking about 54,000 Kenyan shillings.
Yes.
Slightly above 54,000 Kenyan shillings. In Malawi, it is 54,000 Kenyan shillings. Actually, $540.
Yeah.
Yes. Zambia is 58,000. Uganda, it is 67,000. But in Kenya, 80,000.
80,000.
What is the problem there?
One,
Do you see anything?
we can define it. One is that for 5 years or 4 years to be exact, the factories have not been maintained, or have been maintained haphazardly. So efficiency of the factory could cause that. And the other one is the kind of cane that we crush. During all this time, it was free for all. That's why zoning was important. Free for all. So we started now crushing cane which is premature. So you get very little sugar from the cane you are crushing.
Thereby interfering also with the quality.
Quality and even the output of sugar itself is not there. You are getting a quarter instead of getting a half. During that time you are talking about, the time that most of millers, even private or government, now started crushing premature cane. And if you crush premature cane, one is that you are losing and the farmer is losing. And that is the answer. The answer is, during that time there was poaching, and we started now rushing for the cane for free for all, because we didn't have the zones. It had been removed by the minister, and therefore there was no standard way of getting your raw material. And you crush like now we are crushing cane of 18, 20. So then you have the real sugar. But if you are crushing 15, 12, it's not even sugar.
Do you have a possibility of a spike in the amount or in the prices getting to 80,000? Do you have that possibility?
Yeah, it is. There is. There is. Because once we get all these things,
what can we do?
One of the things, once we are first, how do we get to maintain the public millers who are the majority? And then we do timely maintenance so that it's efficient enough. Efficient alone contributes to 20 to 30% of the removal of the sugar. Otherwise, you'll be removing molasses and the bagasse, nothing else, and maybe the other items which are not, which does not give any price to the company.
So you're going for low production at very high cost.
Yeah, at very high cost of production.
So if we have high cost of production, yet giving out low quantity
of raw material,
you
are worsening, and that's why that position is like 80%, 80,000 per ton. It may be even worse. I want to tell you, because I've been in this industry for quite some time, and I'm sure if it was quantified properly, it will be even worse. Because once you start crushing premature cane, you are not producing anything, but just running.
Premature cane, and it is and it is known.
It is known.
What we are producing.
I have done. Unfortunately, I left my book here. I will give you to look at it. We have done the analysis that if you crush the premature cane, you already from the word go, you have gone up almost 60% of your revenue.
No wonder we are going for imports.
No, the imports comes in to frustrate, because now if we don't crush and the import has come in, now it is now when we put in our market, then of course the imported sugar becomes a problem.
Let me look at your task force report. I was reading just going through it.
Yes.
We have, and I quote it. There it says, in 2013, according to the report,
yes.
In 2013, the National Assembly approved specific write-off of government debt owned by these companies under a defined restructuring program that entails partial divestiture of government interests.
Yes.
Government interests, one thing. Government debt, also highlighted there.
Yes.
Do you think that this could also be one factor that affected the sugar industry?
I don't think so.
How favorable?
No, but you know, the process of privatization is a process. It has taken almost 20 years or plus 15 years. But what is important is to address the challenges that is facing that mill. It's not the process of make it private. If the government has withdrawn support to their millers, of course they will now shrink and not produce the level. But that's a program which is ongoing even now, and it is the way the government wants. But what is, to me, my own thinking, is that the best thing to do is that the government should look at other interventions, other method of dealing with the privatization of the millers. Because privatization in this country has been emotive, and it seems not to be coming out clear that when you privatize, the things can work. You can take the example of Mias. But what to me, I would suggest, is that let the government find a partner. Because like in Zoya, private partnership. Like in Zoya, there are so many private people who want to come in. They can come in with an expert to manage, and then the chairman or the rest will be government. And they will turn around the place. But the privatization, the fear is that our people at home fear that if you privatize, it will end up like Mias. It is not adding any value.
You feel it won't?
Yeah.
In your viewpoint, it will not end up like
that's what it is perceived. But let's see if we can get a model which can show example that it is good. But I'm the employee of the government, and I'm there to advise them, and I'm there to tell them what is on the ground. I don't want to lie. So once that is done, then going forward is that the industry will fast track its issues, and they will be serving the country, and we shall have enough sugarcane in this country.
Mheshimiwa, some of these companies are in debt.
Yes.
How will they come out of debt?
Debt is not an issue. It's a question of, is the industry, is the factories functional? Are they operating at optimum? Are they serving the farmers, paying them? Because debts, even in the early years, even the government has debts. But what we see is how do we manage those debts? Like the debts of the factories in the sugar industry have technically been written off by cabinet because it was written off. But because there was attachment that they will private only when they will only give us a certificate of removal when the partner or whoever is coming to have it will be able to join the factories. So that is where we are. But I don't think the issue of privatization and all these things are an issue because that's a process. What we want is particularly, let's look at that factories. What is ailing them? It's not the debts, because the debts are government debts, most of it. And therefore, this should not be, let us perform. Let's get the factory working. Let's get the maintenance on. Let's get sugarcane developed, delivered.
And these are not ideal proposals that you have put on the report. They're not ideal. They are realistic things that can work.
Those are the ideals in the report. That's why this is the answer. Because it was done by experts, both in terms of analysis of the data and coming out with recommendation. And I believe with the task force, you can't go wrong.
You can't go wrong.
You can't.
You're so confident.
No, the industry will boom. With the Minister for Agriculture today, Peter Munya, a man hands-on, I can tell you today, without blinking my eyes, that I can tell you the next 6 months, this industry will be different.
And that is his viewpoint. Give us your take. Remember, our social media platforms are up and running. The hashtag, as always, is Good Morning Kenya. But Mheshimiwa, okay, you are confident in this.
Completely.
But 4 months, for 4 months, farmers have not been paid. How do you expect, what is your source?
When you say 4 months,
yes,
you are talking about 4 months when the factories have closed. How will I have been paid? Because if we had Sugar Development Fund, would have done the maintenance, the farmers and the workers would have been paid. What's
going to be your source of money?
The source of the money is that if the factory continue crashing, eventually you are recovering and paying. 2, that we must pay the farmer as we go collect their cane. 3, that we have a Marshall Plan for our nuclear, because even the nuclear was productive. We can be crushing our cane for 11 months without going to the farmers. Nzoia will be in the nuclear for 11 months. So the fact the nuclear of Nzoia is enough to address the issue of these shortages and then move and be the benchmarking of the paying of the farmers. We raise the price and the farmers will come to give us gain.
The report will address all issues that
they are already,
pertaining to
technically they have been cited. When I hear some other people saying that they have another task force to question this task force,
yes,
those are not for the good of our farmers, for good for this nation.
And you feel this task force,
yes,
is going to address all problems pertaining to the farmers. It is for the good of the farmer.
In fact, they are zeroed down to the farmer. They have particularly said the farmer issue support in terms of fertilizer, extension officers, which has never been there for a long time, should be available by both the millers and the county government, the government. So they advise the farmers on how to plant and take care of the cane. They have been left wild. There have been guesswork. So with this document, my brother, I can tell you, heaven is the limit.
Well, I'm looking at the factories. Yes. I don't know if you can also to tell us,
yes,
how much approximately do you need to revive all these factories?
Well, ongoing, if each of them were given 1 billion shillings, they will start moving very fast.
You talk about how many, over 10 or 14, how many are they now?
Yeah. Well, we are talking about the government millers. Those ones can source their money. But if we want to bring restructure the millers, the public millers, for the purpose of privatizing or partnership with others, 1 billion on each of them will bring them to the level that now even the person who want to privatize or want to be partner will be induced to come. And I can tell you, if that money is delivered, sometimes they will say, we don't want to sell. Because first, the reason why these factories were set up by the late President Mzee Kenyatta, Jomo Kenyatta, was about securing jobs for rural people not to come in town. And that's the purpose of this. And that's why there's a challenge between the public and the private. And it has remained so. When they changed the public to become now commercial, that's where the challenge is. But it can be addressed because one, it is only millers which have the nucleus, but all of them. Go to South Nyanza, go to Chemili, Moroni. We are the only millers which has private one they don't have. And we can fix anytime and any hour and come out celebrating. A farmer, his price will go up and everything, assistance will be there. We will also help him to additional things to be doing other than just sugar alone.
Do we have some millers who have gone rogue and don't want to pay farmers?
Well, I don't think so, because if you don't pay the farmers, then you close the door of the factory. Yeah.
And, you know, at the end of the day, when you don't pay farmers, you see, they will be coming to work because they need some source of livelihood.
Yeah. In fact, you will be now destroying the family completely. Because they live, in fact, sugarcane for the ordinary farm is subsistent. It's not even a cash crop. So it is important that the farmer issue must be a rolling tack in this task force.
I was looking at a comment given by Simon Wesechere.
Yes.
That is Kenya National Sugar Farmers Union Deputy Secretary General.
Yes.
And he says that farmers have been disillusioned by the delayed and poor payments. And I quote what he said. There is completely no order in the industry. The factories lack the capacity to support the sugar farmers. People are not getting paid on time and are getting paid peanuts. Yeah. So even if there is pay there.
But that's why I'm telling you, when you bring in the imported sugar, it affects the price to be paid to the farmer. The capacity is what we are saying. Now, you can't have capacity if you have no raw material.
Now, he said, you believe the millers have not gone rogue.
No.
They have not. But now, he says this, and I quote, some millers are rogue and don't want to pay farmers. Further, farmers have no access to basic inputs such as fertilizers.
He has to be specific. He cannot make a wild accession to millers without, and then codifying the statement to say which one has gone wrong. He knows Mumias is in a problem which is beyond even the farmer and the rest. And that's why we have a miller, we have a receiver there. In Nzoia, we are addressing, we have paid the farmers, and if we don't pay, we can't survive. And we have serious programs to address. So when he talks about that rockish kind of statement, I think I differ with him. Because I was a member and I'm still a member of the federation. And I think I tend to disagree with him that some companies, which one? Mumias, we can't talk about it because it's not crashing.
And Nzoia?
Nzoia, we have started crashing. Now, you can measure us on what we are doing. But you cannot measure anything which is lying, which is almost dead. So he cannot be right. But he can only be right if he's championing. How then do we get some funding? That's what he has said there. How do we now empower the farmer? He is not telling us how to get the funding to empower the farmer.
According to your report, it says that farmers have been discouraged from replanting, creating a shortage in the long
yeah, of course, that's what I'm telling you. Slowly, when Mumias, and I will use Mumias where he comes from, slowly in Mumias, I think either the management or the company started moving away from assisting the farmer to plant and making, benefiting on imported sugar. So that they would rather make that big, huge profit other than help the farmer plant and be given his money. And that is one of the things which this task force is addressing, that it will be in the zones, and if you have been given and you are not paying the farmer is entitled to take that cane anywhere within the 14 millers.
The SDF is it being owed money, SDF? See, I'm looking at some amount of money of over 2.4 billion.
Yeah, of course. I've told you that when you have this debt collected from SDF, which we want to revive,
yes,
and then there's a flood of imported sugar, how do you pay that money? It is not their making.
Madeni.
Yeah, it's not their making.
The report says this, and I quote,
yes,
due to the poor performance of the factories and their inability to pay farmers promptly, declining incomes, factory inefficiencies, high cost of input, which you had mentioned,
yes,
of inputs and services, and poor governance, farmers and farmer organizations have been unable to repay loans from the SDF.
That's a very general statement. Because you see, when the governance, what do you mean by governance? If the factory has produced sugar and they cannot sell it, and it's staying, and like in those past years before I came to Nzoia, you could see 5,000 packs in the factory which are not being sold because of the imported sugar. And if you say that sugar, you'll say that at half price. Who is paying the difference? That's a serious loss. And it might be that is the money which was supposed to pay the farm. That's the situation we are in.
All right. Mheshimiwa, give us your final comments with regards to this. What is your viewpoint with regards to the future of the sugar industry?
The future of the sugar industry is bright, especially with our new Minister for Agriculture, a man who is hand-on on issues that affect farmers across the border, be it tea, coffee, and whatever. I can tell you life is going to change. I want to assure the farmers that we are focusing on their needs and assistance. We are going to, and once the SDL comes back, it will not be abused the way it has done, because the imported sugar will now comprise, and you look at the task force, with the farmers and millers are the ones who will be managing to regulate which sugar should come in this country. Therefore, it will be anchored to what we are producing, and the shortfall will be the only one. And we have said, because the sugar products have benefited too long in the imported sugar, we want to know what is the quota to be imported. Then 50% of the being imported sugar should now be given to the millers, because they're the ones sufferers of the cash flow, so that they can mitigate those issues of cash flow of paying the farmers, so they can import. But when a sugar baron imports, he gets, like now, they imported the 1 million, the fellow cost 60 billion shillings. So he cannot help anybody. He is now down there running to bribe everybody so that he brings down the industry. So we want that to be actualized. This is the task force. That's why I'm against anybody who talks about this task force, because he's an enemy of the farmer and the miller and the Kenyans.
An enemy of the people.
And of course, that in general terms, the people of Kenya.
All right. That is Honorable Joash Mang'oli, a former member of parliament for Webuye and now the chairman of Nzoia Sugar Company, representing, he is in the task force representing the Sugar Millers Association as the chairman. Thank you very much for finding time to join me, Mheshimiwa, and I wish you the best.
Thank you.
The Viewpoint ends now. Keep it KBC. We'll be back in a bit. I'm seeing it's now 10 minutes. Actually, that brings us to the end of this morning conversation, to the end of Good Morning Kenya. See you again tomorrow morning for another edition of Good Morning Kenya. May God bless you. God bless the work of your hands. My name is Ram Aguko.